These oyster sauce and honey pork ribs are a real treat. They're deliciously sticky and so easy to make. It literally takes you about 5 minutes to put it all together, and then you just whack them in the oven for about an hour, let them do their thing, and when they come out they're all glossy and sticky and so yummy. Start off with your pork ribs. So I went to my butcher's yesterday, and I'm used to getting your normal pork ribs, which you're probably used to seeing as well. They're a bit longer, but he didn't have any of them left. So he said, I've got these American spare ribs, and I've never used them before, but it's the same thing. They've just been cut differently. So what he's done is he's actually cut down the middle of the rib, whereas usually you'd get the whole rib. But it doesn't matter. You can actually use whatever kind of spare ribs that you can get hold of. All you need to do is cut the spare ribs into pairs. So you can see there's 2 ribs there, so have pieces that have got the 2 ribs. And you need about 1.5 kilos of pork ribs. That will be enough to feed about 4 people. These are really nice meaty ribs. Some of them are a little bit lean and you don't get much meat on them, but I can tell that these ones have got lots on it, so there's going to be lots to bite into when they're done. So there's our pork ribs. So now onto the marinade for the pork ribs. Put your pork rib pieces in there, and then for the marinade all we need is some honey, some lovely runny honey. So about 3 tablespoons in there. Panda brand oyster sauce has a really rich and robust flavour. It's really delicious, and you'd normally see it in stir fries. That's where you're probably most familiar with it, but as you can see it makes a fantastic marinade as well. So pork slices, pork ribs, beef strips, you can even use it with chicken. It's really, really yummy. You'll be surprised with what you can do with it. So we're going to need about 3 tablespoons. And this is going to give the pork ribs a really yummy, delicious, salty and savoury flavour. When you're cooking Asian food, you've always got to think about the harmonious balance of flavours. So, you know, here I've got some salty oyster sauce in there, mixed with the sweet honey. It's really balancing out those flavours. So give that a good mix. Also going into this marinade, I need some garlic and some ginger. 2 to 3 cloves of garlic. Lee Kum Kee's a family business and they know what they're doing. These guys have been in the business for generations, 125 years in fact. It's a pretty long time. And in that time they've come up with over 200 Asian sauces. And the founder of the Lee Kum Kee business was actually the guy who invented oyster sauce. He was the first person to come up with it. And I believe the story goes that it was actually a mistake. I think he had some oysters in a pot and he kind of left them to boil for a bit too long and forgot about them, and he came back to this black sticky mess, and you think, oh, that's not going to taste very nice, but he obviously tried it and it must have tasted delicious, and now today that's how we've got oyster sauce. So you just need to finely mince your garlic, and now we need a little bit of ginger. The best way to peel ginger is not with a knife and not with a peeler, but with a teaspoon. So all you do is get the back of the teaspoon and just scrape the skin off the ginger, and it comes off perfectly. So again, same thing with the garlic. You just want to very finely chop the ginger. Now, even though this dish is very simple to make and it only takes you about 5 minutes to put together, if you wanted it to be even quicker, you could always cheat a little and add some of the minced garlic from Lee Kum Kee and the minced ginger. So again, just finely chop your ginger. And now a few more flavours. I like a little bit of heat, so I'm going to add some chili flakes. Only about half a teaspoon, but of course, if you like it really spicy, you can add as much as you like. And lastly, the juice of 2 oranges. And this just gives a really subtle flavour of the orange. Make sure you get all of that juice in there. Try and get every little bit out. Cool, so we've got all of our marinade ingredients in there. Now it's time for the fun part. Use your hands and get in there and just mix everything together. Your hands are your best kitchen tool, so don't be afraid to use them and get a little bit dirty. I'm going to leave these pork ribs to marinate for about an hour, but ideally you could leave them in the fridge for 24 hours or even up to 48 hours. There we go. Okay, it's about now that you want to give your hands a good wash. So my pork ribs have been marinating for about an hour now, but remember, if you've got the time, let them marinate for longer. 24 to 48 hours they can marinate for. So to avoid a really messy, sticky cleanup, this is your key thing, your baking paper. Lay that on an oven tray or a baking tray, and then just tip your pork spare ribs out. Lay them out in a single layer. There we go. Of course, if you've got more guests coming around, you could always do lots more pork ribs. And then into the oven they go at about 200 degrees Celsius, and they'll take about an hour to cook. And then that's it. Lee Kum Kee oyster sauce is the original oyster sauce and the best. My dad is a very good Chinese cook and he grew up with it, and he's always said I would only ever use the Panda brand oyster sauce. A nice side dish to go with the pork ribs is some Asian greens, and you can use any Asian greens that you can get hold of. I mean, bok choy is the obvious one, but I've got some choy sum, or you could use gailan. There's lots of different types. All you've got to do is chop the ends of the stems off, just like that. Get a pot of water boiling to a rapid boil. There we go. And because they don't take very long to cook, you literally just want to dunk them in the boiling water for no more than a minute and then drain them. So in they go. And now here's a tip. Make sure you put the stalks in first because they're a bit more dense and they take a little bit longer to cook, and then you can push the leaves into the boiling water. So let the stalks cook a little bit and then I'll push the leaves in. So time it for about 30 to 45 seconds. Drain them. Now tip them back into the pot. And so now a little bit of Lee Kum Kee sesame oil, and I just need a little drizzle. Lee Kum Kee pure sesame oil is made from 100% roasted sesame seeds, and it's the best sesame oil out there. I think it's a pantry staple for everyone's kitchen. And a little drizzle of the Lee Kum Kee premium soy sauce. And now for the fun part. Get your pot lid, put it onto the pot, and give it a good shake. And that makes sure that the Lee Kum Kee premium soy sauce and the sesame oil coats the vegetables really well. And it just smells amazing. Sesame oil has such a beautiful smell. And that's your simple Asian greens. Okay, I think those ribs are just about ready because I can smell them. Whoa, look at that, really dark and sticky. So that's the oyster sauce. Yum. These are going to taste so good. Panda brand oyster sauce is great to have in the fridge because you can use it with so many things. It's available in all Asian stores and supermarkets nationwide. So to plate up, I just need a bit of rice and some of those delicious sticky pork ribs with the Panda brand oyster sauce. And lastly, some vegetables, the Asian greens. So that's my oyster sauce and honey sticky pork ribs with a bit of plain steamed rice and some Asian greens. A really simple, easy dish to make, and it makes great use of the Panda brand oyster sauce. Absolutely delicious. You can find this recipe at lkk.com, where there's lots of other recipes on that website too, or go to foodtv.co.nz.